Another week, another episode. It's great to be back.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all again.
How are you doing, Dina?
I am okay. How are you?
Fabulous. Just couldn't be better. I'm
Excellent.
kind of sleepy today.
So I like your top once again. You are bringing the fashion style, and my nails are pink, so we totally match.
We
Yeah,
coordinated this. We did it.
yeah,
But
definitely.
again, this is
Even though
our
even though
this is
I'm
our
wearing like a
opportunity
dark.
to show off the things in our closet that we don't wear because we are at home all the time.
Exactly. This is like half the reason for the podcast. Like we just need to like wear our cute clothes. We should like do little like a twirl at the
Yeah,
end or beginning.
yeah,
Or
exactly. It's just an excuse to put on the makeup that I bought but rarely use.
I never even thought of that. That's so true.
Yeah. But last
Okay.
week I did a solo episode, ventured into the wild, and talked about rest for 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to say first, oh wait, I have to click OK on the meeting being recorded. Hopefully this has all been recorded anyway. Anyway, I think it has been. Anyways, I wanted to say that I loved your episode. It
Thank
was
you.
so good. It literally like it made me think about my experience differently than how I've thought about it because I like I don't think about rest as this like systematic thing that I need to like work on and do and like treat like a thing that I
Mhm.
want to like make time for. I just kind of like sometimes I have to rest and then I rest, but it's like haphazard. Like I haven't invested like time and energy into like, finding things like a weighted blanket or like the mat that you were talking about. Like I just kind of, and for me, like that feeling of being really both wired and tired, that a lot of people with MECFS experience, I kind of, even though I know that it's a common experience, I didn't really put two and two together that like that's what's happening to me so many times when I'm just lying there and I can't rest. Like
Mhm.
I thought it was maybe more of like a thing with one of my medications, which like maybe is also related, but I just didn't realize how universal it is to our experience to like when we're exhausted, it's kind of like this like over like I don't know the right word, like almost overexcited, overstimulated
Yeah.
state and like how common that is and how like you have to find a way to deal with that. And I really like the idea of like designated rest times during the day, like regardless of whether you feel in that moment that you need to rest. Because I don't do like, oh, I know I'm going out later. I should rest first now. I don't do any of that. I
Oh,
just
interesting.
I just kind of am like pushing myself until I can't, and then I collapse.
Yeah, you're resting in response to something. So like you went out, you socialized, you did this podcast or whatever, and now you're tired, so you're gonna
Hmm.
go rest. Yeah,
Exactly.
I did that for many years as well.
Hmm.
And I think what was interesting for me in hearing what you were just talking about is the wired but tired thing, how there's so many paradoxes within MECFS. Like the point at which you most need rest when you've just done something exhausting is also the point when it's hardest to rest because your body is so like
Amped
animated
up.
and amped up. And that makes it harder for you to calm down and chill. And
Totally.
again, at least in my case, it makes me more likely to continue overexerting because I'm like, well, I'm already up. I'm already overstimulated. I might as well keep this going. Like, I just drove 4 hours. Why not go straight to dinner and do a bunch of other stuff and saying, like, hey, no, I'm gonna pay for this tomorrow, the next day, the next week, whatever.
Hmm.
So even if I don't feel awful right now, I'm going to stop this process in its tracks and make myself rest. And then do supportive things that make it's like rest inducing habits. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like I can't rely
Hmm.
on my brain just to calm down on its own. I need something else to supplement it. So that's where all the gadgets come in.
Yeah, I mean I like it. I seriously like now I'm thinking I need to invest in some of that kind of stuff. And I
Mhm.
also like so when I come home from like going out or whatever, something like that, like before I can curl up in bed, which I'm like dying to do,
Yeah.
I kind of am like it just takes so long to like turn off and I'm like I have to like figure like write out like everything I'm going to need to do later and like I don't know, just like weird things that don't make any sense.
But it's super frustrating, right? Because if you go out, like if I were to go to do something in the evening and I come home at 9:30, I'm not going to be falling asleep until 11:30 or later. It's not like I come
Mhm.
home and I take some stuff to help me sleep and then my head hits the pillow and I'm out. It's like a full wind down process and it makes doing anything socially just a little bit more challenging because I have to take into account this buffer zone of time during which my body comes down from the high of socializing or leaving the house or whatever it is, and then finally gets into like sleep rest mode. I just think I'm so much more sensitive to stimulus than most people are, and it just takes me a long time to transition from that, like, okay, I'm interacting, I'm with people, and now I need to sleep.
Yeah, and that like makes me think like this is a little bit different, but um I feel the best when when I'm least like active, like when I just have like weeks where I'm not like really leaving the house. Like I feel physically the best. Like I don't
Mhm.
have a ton of like admin stuff to do on the computer and I'm just like chilling out and like kind of moving like anticipating the topic we're planning for today about some loss and disappointment. It's really always so hard for me to admit that
Hmm.
and just be like, what I really want, what really makes me like as feel as good as I can during this state is like not doing things. And I so want to do things. So that also like makes it really hard. Like I've just had periods where I've been, and I mean, like I said in other episodes, like psychologically, I need social time sometimes. Like I
Yeah.
know I need
Same.
that sometimes, but probably less than I do it. I just can't let go of things in the way that I probably should in order to physically feel better.
I have such a hard time disentangling those two things because I
Hmm.
do find it energizing to be around people and be around friends within reason. And it's definitely mentally boosting. It's just so hard to know what the line is between not overtaxing myself physically while still getting that like community support and interaction with other people. I wish it were more clear cut and I wish it were really obvious. Like there was just some super basic cost benefit calculation because I'm always running that in my head. Like, okay, if I go do this thing, that's going to be an X for the following days or whatever, which is just an exhausting way to live. But
I know. And I'm just like indecisive by nature. Like I've always, like even before health issues, I've always had like I found like I'm not indecisive about big things, but I find like little decisions like that, like even like before I was sick, like should I go out or should I study or something like that.
yeah,
I find it really difficult. So it's like multiplied like 1,000-fold when I'm like,
yeah,
should I make this plan or not? And I feel like
right.
so much of my energy is just devoted to like thinking about that and like, oh, like, did I overschedule? Did I underschedule? Like, should I cancel? Should I not cancel? And it's just like not
Yeah.
ideal.
Well, and again, like in the absence of clear treatments and better guidance for patients, it's really easy to beat ourselves up for these decisions and think like, okay, I crashed because I overexerted myself and I shouldn't have done that, and therefore this is
Mhm.
why I'm sick. And you just spiral into this self-flagellation, whereas I think if we had better understanding of all these things, and again, I think the science is evolving in terms of getting a better grasp on how post-exertional malaise manifests in the body and what the specific tissue and vascular damage is. But still, it's just really brutal, I think, as a patient to feel like the fate of your health is like in your hands and you put all this pressure on yourself to decide like, okay, if I go to this thing or if I don't do this thing, depending on where you fall in that mild to severe spectrum, that's going to dictate the rest of my day, week, month, whatever it is.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. I like your idea of like some kind of calculator. You're just like plug in. Here's how I'm feeling right now. Here's how much
I've
like
tried to come up
whatever.
with these things like mental, I don't know, heuristics or whatever that could simplify that process. Like I know one of the aspects of when I had done like cognitive behavioral therapy in the past, activity
Mhm.
tracking was really big. So I have my like grid of my schedule and I see like, okay, I did these things, I did these things. If I want to do this thing, does that sort of add up based off of everything else? But I will say that proactive resting, well, again, not a cure, it does help with pacing myself because I just have these built-in blocks of time that I know are going to be dedicated to rest. And so I just by default don't schedule myself for things that are going to take 4 hours, generally speaking. There are a handful
Yeah.
of times when I will deviate from that plan, but for the most part, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it because I'm not thinking about do I do this thing or not? It's like, okay, well, it's at 4 o'clock and that's my rest time. So if I want to do it, I have to schedule my rest block at 3 o'clock and then reorganize the rest of my schedule around it. And if I don't want to do that, then I'm going to say no to the activity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, I think another like aspect of it is like I'm an extroverted person. I don't know if you would characterize yourself as extroverted or not. And a lot of times, like when I tell people how tired I get after social stuff, like sometimes people will be like, oh, like I get that, like, because like you're introverted, like you need rest afterwards. And I'm like, no, no, I need physical rest, but like I'm very energized, like
Yeah, I
spiritually
crave this from
from
like the
this.
deepest point of my soul.
Exactly. Like you don't
I
get it.
also
I
need a
want to
nap.
do all these things. Like I'm not, it has nothing to do with like getting drained from socializing, like as
Yeah.
psychologically. It's like you said, like it's just distinguishing, which also makes me think like what you just said. I mean, what you just said about the like how they're learning more things about exactly like what happens in the body, like when we overdo it, when we like
Mhm.
overexert. Um, there we need to do an episode about just like in a very basic way some of the recent medical findings that make it like so clear that there's like abnormalities in our immune system
Yeah.
and abnormalities in our blood and abnormalities with like structural issues and because I feel like this is something that is like there are so many people on Twitter who are still like trying to minimize these things and like not acknowledge the physical evidence that exists regarding our condition.
Hmm.
And I know like we know it, and I'm like not a science person. I couldn't like go into detail about it, but I don't know. I feel like we need to.
Well, in keeping with our manifesto of not knowing the most but feeling the most,
Yeah.
anytime something comes out that's really interesting from a physiological aspect, because again, I got diagnosed when there wasn't really any research going on. It was very limited. There was this like brief blip in time when XMRV was posited as the cause of all this, and then that was debunked. But at least for our lives, it's the validation that comes with advancing research and also the excitement to see that brilliant minds are dedicating their time and their careers to researching these
Yeah.
diseases that have been neglected for so long. That gives me a lot of excitement and hope. I know that like we're not there in
Yeah.
terms of you get diagnosed and you go to the doctor tomorrow, you're not going to be handed a suite of pills and procedures that are going to cure all your symptoms and make everything evaporate within seconds. But there's a lot more, I think, social support that's developing because when I got diagnosed, like nobody knew what it was. There's still most people I don't think know what this is. And so there are a lot of frustrations that come with being a patient because on top of the baseline symptoms, the fatigue, the brain fog, the crushing insomnia, everything else, now you have to deal with all these people who are like, oh, what's going on? Like there's just a lot of challenges that come with being diagnosed with something that doesn't have a lot of awareness or social support.
Yeah, completely. And I think that what frustrates me is, and I mean, this is like a whole other tangent than what we were
As
planning to talk
always.
about. But what frustrates me is, there's like a cohort of doctors and whatever, like people who I don't know, just like have thoughts, I guess, about this illness, like both our illness and long COVID. And a lot of it is like, ugh, there are these activists and they just like feel these symptoms and they want to believe it's real. So like, and then all these doctors like succumb to it because like they don't want to offend these patients, like almost treating it like it's this like issue of political correctness that these people are just like making up these symptoms and people are catering to them like out of like political correctness or like political pressure or something. And it's like, just look at the science. Just literally read the studies. You
I
don't,
won't talk to you. Just talk to me for like 2 hours. I'll tell you my personal
yeah,
experience.
literally. And like, I remember posting this, like, just, you don't have to like believe me, like, care about my
Yeah,
symptoms. Like, anyone who's actually studying this knows the physiological abnormalities that come with this illness. So it's just like, whatever. Anyways, but that's a completely different topic. It
yeah,
just like made me think of it when you mentioned the post-exertional malaise and like, what they're finding about how that manifests in the
right.
body and like with your muscle tissue and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's super fascinating.
Okay.
I've gotten some really cool feedback from listeners, watchers, which I was not expecting because we started this on a whim and haven't really had a lot of structure as far as what we were going to talk about. But hearing that the things that we discuss resonate with anyone is so validating. It's so encouraging. It's really sweet, honestly, what people have said, both healthy and our fellow patients. You've gotten some amazing feedback.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to hear not just from other patients, but from healthy people that some of the things that we talk about have resonated with them in like other areas of their lives. And I think like the feedback we've gotten from that has been like really sensitive to like, I'm not equating what I've gone through with like this specific illness, but it's like, oh my shit.
Oh
My
no, you've
battery
never
is
sworn before.
dying. Oh no, what do I
Good
do?
pause.
I
I'm
don't know.
pausing. Okay, thanks for bearing with us with that brief interlude. We have some new artwork that you can enjoy in the background in the meantime.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer was running out of battery and we had to have an emergency break in the podcast while I figured that out and I
Yeah.
moved over. So that's why the background is a little bit different.
Who's the person in your background?
Yeah, this is literally me.
Oh my gosh.
This is
You're
sorry,
kidding
this is
me.
like really off track, but this is 5-year-old Dina. Yeah.
Oh my God, your hair is amazing.
I know.
Okay, so
80s
we're gonna have
style or
that
early 90s, whatever.
episode. I'm gonna
Back
show
in the
off my bowl
day.
cut. So
Anyways,
funny. Okay.
what I was saying was that I feel like the um it's like just getting feedback from people who are healthy about how like they also have had these experiences of like loss in terms of like aging or in terms of like, not being able to continue their career. Just also like losing out, feeling like they're like a sense of loss from not getting like intellectual stimulation because they're raising kids or, just a lot of different kind of experiences, I guess. And people, it just shows me like what's really sweet about it, other than like it does make me feel like less alone in some of this stuff. I think what's really sweet about it is like some people at least, like they want to relate.
Hmm.
They want to find some connection, they want to find some similarity. And I don't know, I just like found it really nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think every patient has had frustrations and dealt with difficult conversations with people who aren't very understanding or whatever. But there are a lot of people who haven't gone through this personally, but still want to be part of your life and still want to be supportive. And that's the part that's most encouraging, I think, for me is to see that by putting this out into the world, we're giving an opportunity to open up those conversations with people who are like, I don't get it. I don't know what you've gone through because I haven't gone through it myself, but I have gone through these difficult things. And I want our friendship to deepen as we discuss these things moving forward because
Hmm.
that's I mean, that's the best possible outcome, I think, when it comes to trying to retain some sense of community when you've been sick for so long. You know, you and I have both developed really lovely friendships with fellow patients, and that is just so special because there's nothing like being able to talk to somebody who just gets it and like it's like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean about that doctor's appointment or whatever it is. They've gone through a similar sense of loss and the challenges with getting older while you watch all your friends move on without you.
Yeah.
But it's especially meaningful when people who haven't had this specific experience still want to reach out and still want to be part of our lives. I think that's one of the biggest losses is feeling like you don't have that. And so I'm really grateful that we've been able to cultivate some small amount of that with people.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is, we've talked a lot about how hard it is, like you and I, like offline, um,
Endless text
have,
conversations, basically.
yeah, have talked about how hard it is to like maintain friendships and like on multiple levels, like both because you're going through something so different than like what other people our age are going through.
Mhm.
And because of like energy constraints on our part and because everyone's just kind of busy and it's a part of modern life, I think that connections are hard to maintain. People live in different cities and everything.
Well, and you and I are both
Um,
living with our parents, which I think adds this extra dimension to it. Like,
yeah, say more about that.
I'm living in a suburban area with a lot of people that aren't my age. Like, it's just very different than if I were living, in the walkable neighborhood sort of dream. When you're in
Yeah.
college and you're in a dorm and you're surrounded by people your age, it's a very different social experience to, being in this phase of life where we're not really where we expected to end up and we're doing our best to make the most of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's hard. It's like it's been hard for me to like really figure out what I want from like a friendships perspective because it's like on the one hand, like I do crave connection and I'm like I would be interested in like cultivating additional friendships. But on the other hand, I barely have capacity and like a lot of times don't have capacity to just see the friends that I already have.
Yeah.
So it's like what am I doing? Like, and I have, I mean, this is like so embarrassing to admit, but like I have gone on Bumble BFF, which is for those people who don't know, is like kind of
Oh
like a
yeah,
dating
I've done
app.
that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dating app, but like for finding friends, basically. And I've like met
It's not
some.
embarrassing. That's like a totally normal thing. People totally
Okay,
think it's
okay. I
okay.
just
Use it.
feel like it's not cool to be like, I want new
No, this is
friends. I
slander.
want more friends. Would you say?
This is slander. We're not going to uh imply that it's not cool to want friends because I feel like everybody wants friends.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Loud and proud in support of
The
Bumble BFF.
cringy pursuit of community.
Yeah. It's funny, I did meet with some girls from Bumble BFF like a few weeks ago, and several of them were also dealing with chronic health
Yeah.
issues. And it seemed like the conversation was like, oh, like what medications have you tried?
What are your diagnoses? Yeah.
Um,
I think there's a balance. I think there are times when I want to have those relationships where we can talk about what's going on with our health and we can be open about the frustrations, and there are other times when I don't want to talk about that. And it's really fun to hear about my friends' kids or the
yeah,
ridiculous stuff that they're dealing with at work or whatever it is.
yeah.
It's hard because I think I grew up with some idealized version of like, okay, I'm going to be living in New York and my five best friends are going to be hanging out at my apartment all the time and
Hmm.
somehow can afford. But
It's like these TV shows and movies that
oh
have
my
like
gosh, that
completely,
totally set these wild expectations for what adulthood was going to be like. But
yeah.
I still feel like so many of the good things in my life are the product of my friends and my relationships with people. And so the ongoing grief of not having that in to the extent that I would like at this stage of life is really, really challenging. And it's hard. It stays hard. I think that's one of the hard redundant. It's one of the challenges of being sick is that you don't necessarily find it you don't necessarily get numb to that pain of rejection or loss. You may I may find better strategies for coping with it over time, but it still hurts, it stings. Did you just say something because I couldn't hear you?
Oh my God.
Okay.
Sometimes so I don't know why I just did that. I was just gonna say, like, sometimes I think our connection, our like internet connection isn't like perfect. Am I like
Oh, I
freak?
thought you were talking about like our like friendship connection.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know about our
Touch
friendship.
and
No,
go.
the internet,
Sometimes I feel like you don't hear what I'm saying.
literally because of the internet
I'm right
connection.
in front of you and it's like you don't even see me.
Um, Yeah. What did you want? What else did you want to discuss today about? I know we got off track on various things, but about like what you're saying about like continuing disappointment or like, I don't know, just other things you wanted to talk about.
Well, honestly, I think we're at a good time to actually start wrapping up, and I want to put a pin in the disappointment discussion because I think that merits a longer episode and
Hmm.
focus
Yeah,
because
for
I know
sure.
that you've dealt with that as well. Just talking about the specific losses that we've gone through with, in your case, leaving a really promising legal career, losing out on educational opportunities, job opportunities, relationship, like all kinds of things, and what it means as a patient who has limited energy opportunities to try and cope with those challenges because we don't have the extensive social support. We don't have the other like hobbies and distractions that a perfectly healthy person might have that would facilitate the process of moving on and navigating those heartbreaks.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing that yeah, we can talk about at length in another episode. But yeah, like we were talking before we started about if you do when there is some kind of like disappointment or it's hard when you don't have other things in your life that are kind of forcing you or allowing you to distract yourself and like kind of get your mind off of whatever is difficult. You're kind of just like,
I'm
I'm
here.
stuck with this like whatever
Yeah,
pain.
yeah, exactly. So, as we wrap up, we're hoping to do more episodes, but also this podcast exists to support patients with chronic illnesses, including us, which means both have to be really mindful of our energy capacities. And I know you had some thoughts about that and what that looks like going forward.
Yeah, so basically I think sadly, I don't know that I will be able to continue to do every week, participate in the episodes, and I might be appearing more sporadically or more as a guest. But we're still talking about that and figuring out what the shape of the podcast is going forward. I think, we launched this we didn't have like a full plan kind of going forward. We were just like, we want to talk about these issues. We have a lot to say. We want to like put it out there because, hopefully people can relate. Um, and like for me personally, kind of the weekly even just doing this like short podcast weekly is a lot. So yeah, we just have to decide and not necessarily like decide, but just kind of talk and figure out how we will move forward. But hopefully we will continue to see you guys and yeah, continue to make episodes.
Yes. And please like and subscribe to the channel, comment on the videos. We love hearing from you. DM us, message, whatever. It's
Yeah,
been,
the comments, like hearing from people, both people we know and people we don't know, has just been like great. So
yeah.
if you're enjoying, let us know. And yes, like and subscribe. Apparently the kids say that these days. So we were told to to say that at the end of episodes. So
Yes.
we
Perfect
are.
timing because there's literally somebody leaf blowing like right outside
Oh
your
yeah. Oh, my
window.
parents have been like tiptoeing around. If I've been distracted at like a few moments, like my parents have been like tiptoeing around, like doing stuff in the kitchen and stuff. So
Yep.
yeah.
No, I think it's great. This is a very high production value podcast, and we're just continuing to operate at that level. So, we'll see you sort of next week. And there will at least be some video coming out every week. We'll just figure out what that format is and talk to you then.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us.